So we're going to start with the elements of a story. This is very high level. Okay. These are just when there's a story that exists, what are the elements that are in them? Very, very common, but just to start, so we're all on the same page. Okay. All stories have these four things. First thing is characters. Have to have a story. No story doesn't exist without characters. Okay. Particularly two characters you have to have: protagonist and an antagonist, commonly hero and villain, right? You have to have those two things because the next thing that's important is conflict. And this isn't messy per se, this is just challenges, obstacles. Okay. The two characters are going through some sort of conflict. They're adversaries in some sort of way, and not necessarily always. Characters don't always have to be people, they can be institutions, they can be some other form. Okay. There's some conflict there. Conflict leads to transformation. Okay, and that's really kind of where the essence of a story is in the transformation. But you can't have transformation without some sort of conflict, right? So the conflict lets us lead to the transformation. We started off in one frame, one area, one state, and then we ended in another thing. It is boring to go through a story and everything is the same all the way through, right? You didn't learn anything, you didn't do anything, you didn't overcome anything. That's not interesting. Okay. We need some sort of transformation. Transformation leads to resolution, and resolution doesn't mean happy ending all of the time. Resolution just can be the end of that particular transformation. How did it resolve itself? What were the lessons learned? What was the conclusion? What was the outcome? Okay. So core elements of a story, very quickly going over. Stories also have story arcs and character arcs. Again, so this is back to transformation. So we start at one place and we end in another place. For businesses in particular, that arc has certain themes to it. And if you listen to different business stories and how people started their business, transformed their business, became successful in their business, they tend to align with one of these four arcs, right? The first one is mission or quest. Mission or quest is just about having a purpose beyond yourself. You are driven by something, something social, something societal, something outside of yourself. So Patagonia and Tom's are very good examples of like being mission, social driven organizations. We have the revolutionary. The revolutionary is all about kind of change, challenging the status quo, wanting to evolve something that is kind of stagnant, or they think that needs to be pushed in some other realm, right? Netflix is a good example of this, where they completely revolutionized an entire industry. We had Blockbuster Video there, and it was a completely new way of approaching kind of that video market with streaming. They revolutionized that entire industry. Then we have the explorer. The explorer is all about kind of new territory, new markets, new technology, something that hasn't been thought of or explored before, right? So we have Airbnb and Uber kind of examples of like, those are new market economies. Those didn't exist before. That's a whole new territory of like the peer and the sharing. Airbnb changed the hotel industry. Uber kind of changed the taxi ride sharing industry. And then we have the reinventor. Reinventor, if you're in business long enough, there's going to be some sort of reinvention, right? The market changes, the consumer changes. You have to sort of redefine yourself as a business and keep up with that. So the reinventor is about, again, changing in that state. Lego was a good example of that. IBM is a good example of that too as well. So those are kind of common character and story arcs in a business sense. And then we have themes. So there are also kind of themes, just general in story too, but also in business story as well. So we have the redemption. So redemption is about overcoming failures, mistakes, and continuing to be a success, right? If you're in business long enough, there's something that you overcame, struggle that you went through, mistake you made, setback that happened, and how did you overcome it? Hero's journey, classic as a classic gets as far as a theme goes in a story. I'm sure you've heard it a billion times. In a business sense, it's really about that humble beginning, starting in your mom's kitchen kind of thing, and continuing to overcome to then be successful. We have the good versus evil, that dichotomy, right? I have someone in my current workshop does sustainable fashion, right? And she's really trying to challenge the fashion industry and the oils and the dyes and the amount of waste that industry produces, right? That that you see that kind of good versus evil in the institution sense, trying to overcome some sort of conglomerate corporation that is doing harm in our society in some way. And then we have the sacrifice, right? The sacrifice is about that higher purpose, some kind of selflessness, sacrifice, dedication to achieve something that is outside of yourself, higher than you, some mission or something like that. Okay. So common themes, again, just going over the basic elements of a story, just so kind of we are all on the same page about story and storytelling. Some things to keep in mind when it comes to you and your story. When I went over those themes, I'm sure you were thinking of like these grandiose stories and these big successful brands. And it doesn't have to be that way. You can just bring this down and be, simple and practical for you and your business. You don't need some kind of grand story. In order to tell your story, you don't need to be $1 million company yet. A lot of brands that I talk to or stories, small businesses that I talk to, it's like they haven't reached their pinnacle yet. And that's not the goal, right? Again, this is just about transformation. There are going to be several stories within your story, right? Where you meet yourself where you're at right now, because your story can help somebody where they're at right now. And that's the whole point. So just be authentic, be true to yourself. You can be authentic by staying true to your values, your mission, your core. So if you don't have a mission statement or a vision statement, get one that'll help you stay true and authentic to whatever that thing is that you're trying to accomplish. Keep it simple, right? I think a lot of businesses, when I talk to them, especially small businesses, get into the diatribe. They word vomit. It's like everything just kind of pours out, and can the audience consume all of that, right? Just keep it simple, keep it to the main points and the big transformation and the ultimate outcome, right? And it's all about demonstrating impact. Again, this doesn't have to be grandiose. This doesn't have to be some multi-million-dollar business. It can be as simple as a lesson that you learned, right? How you helped one person, how you impacted your local community. Those things have bigger impact sometimes than those kind of big $1 million stories. So it's just what is important to you. How did you help somebody? How did you support somebody? How did you help yourself? What lesson did you learn? That can be the impact, and that's good enough.